¿Qué rollo, plebada? Nosotros somos el podcast de Con Todo y Salsita. El día de hoy tenemos a un exjugador de la Major League, el Coach Smitherman. How are you, Coach?
Good. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good too, Coach.
How do you feel about this podcast today?
It's free. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
See what kind of questions y'all have.
What was to get it started, to get off the conversation easily? What was your first impression when we had asked if you wanted to be in a podcast?
At first, I was like, "Why?" Then I was like, "Okay, of course you're in digital media, so I was like, okay, they just need someone to talk to." So they had some questions, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'll be a part of it."
Okay. We have a couple questions for you, Coach.
Okay.
Is of your baseball league on your years of gold.
Okay.
The first one is, what was the most memorable moment of your major league career?
Major league career, memorable moment. I was in Double-A in Mobile, Alabama, and I got a phone call from the manager and said, "Hey, you're going back to the major leagues."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "Okay." And he said, "Just pack your things. We're trying to get you a flight out of Mobile to get to Cincinnati, Ohio, because that's where the major league team was."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, cool." So we were trying to get a flight the night before, and there was no flights out of Chattanooga. So we drove down to Mobile, and then we got to Mobile at like 10 a.m. They took me straight to the airport.
Yeah.
And then I flew from Mobile to Detroit, and then Detroit to Cincinnati. And then I got to the stadium. I think it was like the third or fourth inning. My jersey was hanging in my locker. I got dressed, went down to the dugout and said hello to everybody from the guys that I had played with previously. And, some of us had been moving back and forth between Double-A, Triple-A, and then the big leagues.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hey, you're going to hit in the next inning." So I went down to the cages, swung the bat, got loose, and then I pitched hit for our pitcher at the time. And it was against, we were playing Milwaukee, and it was against Matt Kinney. And he threw me, I think, a sinker in, and I hit it in the upper deck in left field. So my first major league hit was a home run.
Damn.
So it was really cool. And, just the feeling of it. At the time, Cincinnati wasn't very good. There was a lot of guys that was injured, like a real good friend of mine at the time, King Griffey Jr., which was somebody that I watched when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then here I am playing with him. He was injured at the time. Barry Larkin was at the facility, Sean Casey, of course, Adam Dunn, Austin Kearns, all these different guys that I had played, in spring training with. And then I had an opportunity to play with them for the rest of the year. I think that was mid-August, and we played. So I played with them until the end of September. It was, but the most memorable moment was getting to the stadium. You're about to hit, and then, hitting in the cages, come out, okay, you're up. And then my first major league hit was a home run.
That's crazy.
How did you feel when you were going to watch those people play, and then to grow up and then be in the team and then to play with those people that you watch growing up?
It's an unexplainable feeling, literally, because I played against like Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. These guys were legit baseball players. Barry Bonds, some of the best baseball players that Major League Baseball had ever seen. And I had an opportunity to play against them, play with them, be around them. Albert Pujols, which I still think is one of the greatest hitters that ever played baseball, from Dominican Republic. And just, Alex Rodriguez, all these different guys, Pedro Martinez. I can continue on and on and on. The list just continues to grow, and being able to play against them in spring training and, of course, during the season. Nomar Garciaparra, the shortstop for the Boston Red Sox, and then he was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Just great guys, and then just to be around them, seeing them on TV 10 years earlier and then playing against them 10 years later, it's almost a feeling that you can't even explain.
Like it's impossible.
Yeah. I mean, it really does. It really does. It's a feeling that it's really hard to explain, but to be a part of it, it was great.
What was going through your mind when you hit it and it was a home run and while you were running the bases?
It was all of the hard work that was put in prior to that, because people don't see the hard work that you put in.
That goes into it. Like, you're talking 16-hour days. You get up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. You go to the field. You have breakfast. You work out. You play. Spring training games. You play in October. You play in November. You're lifting weights when you're trying to work. And then you're trying to stay in shape, but you're not making a whole lot of money during the season, right? Yeah. Because you're not a major leaguer yet. So you have to get a job to be able to take care of yourself during the off season. So you're doing all of those extra things, but all the hard work that you put in for years and years and years, I share with my team that 20,000 hours were put in before I stepped foot on a Major League Baseball field. 20,000 hours of working, swinging a bat, fielding balls, catching balls, throwing balls. 20,000+ hours of work was put in before I ever stepped on a Major League Baseball field.
Okay.
Well, our second question is, what was the hardest part about adjusting to the level of playing in the big leagues?
The hardest part is that everybody is superior. Mm. It's not just one guy. Sometimes in high school, you'll face a good pitcher on Monday, but then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, not so good.
Yeah. So it's just different between the pitchers.
That's right. There's in the major leagues, you're facing 97, and in some cases, and now in today's game, you see a lot of guys that throw over 100 miles an hour, and they just don't have one pitch. They throw 100 miles an hour with a changeup, a curveball, or a slider. They'll have 4 to 5 pitches in their back pocket that they can throw you, and it's like you have to be on your A game every single day.
Mm-hmm. You have to work hard every single day.
Every day.
And then another one: how did you handle the pressure of playing in front of thousands of fans and the high expectations?
Whenever people ask me what is it like to play in front of 40, 50,000 people, you are the person that could make people love you or hate you. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was the greatest feeling. On the road, 40,000 people don't like you because you just cost their team a win. Mm-hmm. At home, 40 to 50,000 people love you because you just allowed your team or helped your team win a ball game. And that's the greatest feeling, more so than anything.
What was the reaction of your family to see you on the major leagues?
So back then, they didn't have a lot of space on your phone for like messages. Yeah. And my messages was full the day that they found out that I got called up. So not only my grandmother, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, and in some case, everybody. I mean, even people that I hadn't played against or played with or played for. Like I had high school coaches and
everybody wishes they had it.
Everybody was texting me, calling me, and it was great because they were a part of who I was becoming.
They were part of getting there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how did it feel like to see yourself on TV? To see yourself, like you say, you get home and you see yourself, like you're on the news or you're on TV.
Oh, like when you see the clips on YouTube or something like that.
I thought that was one of the things that I was really pushing for, that I really wanted to see, was to see myself on ESPN, right? Yeah. Like that was the thing. Like it's not just local news, right? It's ESPN, it's national. And I thought that was one of the greatest things that
So you did hit ESPN?
Yeah, yep. They showed my home run, and then even before that, I played in the Futures game in Chicago on the South Side at the White Sox Stadium. At the time, it was called Synergy Field, and I hit the home run to win the game. And just some of those emotions, and then people at home like, "Oh my goodness, I just seen you on TV," and like that was really cool. It was. Yeah. It was.
Well, who was the toughest or pitcher or hitter you ever faced?
The toughest pitcher that I had ever faced was Randy Johnson. 6'10", left-handed, 97, 100 miles an hour. As soon as he let go of the ball, it was like the catcher was catching the ball because he was so close to you by the time he let go of the ball.
Damn.
That's a lefty. Righty was probably Kurt Schilling and Roger Clemens. Now, Kurt Schilling, of course, played for the Boston Red Sox, but we faced him in spring training. Dirty split finger. And then Roger Clemens had a dirty split finger as well, but his fastball was really hard. It's not that he threw mid-90s, but his ball was so hard coming out of his hand that if you didn't square it up, it would shatter your bat. So those were the toughest pitchers that I'd ever faced.
To this day, do you still talk to these people that you played against or played with?
I do, some of them. Now, King Griffey Jr., Sean Casey, they change their numbers quite often because people find their numbers and they have to change their numbers. But occasionally I'll get a message from them and be like, hey, I can't believe you still got the same number. And I tell them I'm not as popular as you guys are, so I don't have to change my number every 6 months. But yeah, occasionally I do. Like a lot of the guys that I played minor leagues with, we still stay in contact, mostly on Facebook. Dimitri Young was a guy that really helped me coming up in the Reds organization. And to this day, he's coaching, baseball too. And he kind of encouraged me to go back and start coaching and teaching baseball again. Yeah. Just watching him on, Instagram and Facebook. And so him and I kind of converse back and forth. Believe it or not, I played with Deion Sanders too. And awesome guy. I know a lot of people taking, that's too much hype, but Deion Sanders is one of the most humbling people that you'll ever meet. And to see what he's done at Colorado is just, it's a beautiful thing. So,
do you like some of the people that you talk to? Do you think they have two different personalities, like a different personality to the TV side? Like the more in-person side,
They do. They have to put, and it's not that they put on a persona, but they have to, a lot of the guys have to protect themselves to a certain point when you're at that caliber of a player. You look at football with, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. I'm a Chiefs fan, so I'm referring to those guys. But even when you look at baseball, Major League Baseball, there's so much access to guys like that. And girls now, right? Because the WNBA is becoming a big thing. There's so much access to them that they have to be able to put somewhat of a guard up to be able to protect themselves from every little bitty thing. They can say something and people will take it out of context. So they've got to really be careful. But at home or when they're around their friends or teammates, they can kind of open up and be more of the flower that they really are. Yeah,
more of the personality.
That's right. That's right. And at King Griffey Jr., I can use an example of him. He was always a jokester. So him and I used to joke all the time about Friday. That was one of our favorite movies. And I say ours because most of us that played with Cincinnati at the time watched every Friday. And he used to ask me to do the Pinky impersonation because I was really good at it. So those are just some of the things that we would do, and when we would be stretching in the morning and, before we go play spring training games and whatnot. But they're really, really, those individuals are really genuine, and then it's really tough on them because of how much they deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Growing up, did you think that growing up was the team that you played for, was that the team that you wanted to play for, or you had a different team in mind?
I did, because I have a lot of family that lives in Kansas City. So I'm a Kansas City Royals fan, as you can see, right? And then I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan because I have a lot of family that lives in Kansas City. My first Major League Baseball game that I watched, I played in. I had never been to a Major League stadium. I had never stepped foot in a Major League stadium until I played in a game in Pittsburgh. And so my first Major League stadium that I walked in was Cleveland, where it used to be the Indians. Now it's the Guardians. And then the first at bat that I had was in Pittsburgh, and I hit a line drive to the center fielder. And I tell my baseball players all the time, and I know you remember this, is that you can do everything right and have nothing to show for it. I hit a missile right at the center fielder, and he didn't have to move. And the manager at the time was just like, my goodness, he said, just keep swinging the bat. We'll see you back in no time. And so I spent about a week in the big leagues, and then I got sent to AAA. Then I went to the Futures game, and then I went back to the big leagues later in the year. But you're right. I mean, I think baseball is the closest to life as any sport could possibly be, because you can do everything right and have nothing to show for it.
What was the transition being like from a big pro for your life now?
The transition, living in a suitcase.
No.
For 8 years almost, you're living in a suitcase. You're spending traveling a lot. So your bag is everything that you have almost. Now, not to say that you don't have cars and vehicles and homes and all of that, but you spend a lot. Like you try to figure out how to get 7 to 8 days worth of clothes in one suitcase. And with me being a diabetic, I have to now carry medication, or I had to carry medication too. So it was just, in some cases, it was a hassle. But the transition from constantly being on the go to then now you're stationary, that was the most difficult thing for me. Is trying to get to the point where, okay, I'm not going to have to go anywhere or do anything. All I got to do is drive to and from work, instead of normally I would work at home for 2 or 3 days, and then I would leave town like 4, 6, 12 hours away and then have to work again. Okay. So doing that for 8 years, and then now transitioning back to like being in the same location all the time, that was
back to the civilian life.
Basically, back to the civilian life, where you're just going to and from work, and then if you have kids or family or just kind of hanging out, that was the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
What were the key steps or experience that led you to become a coach at Western Heights?
My brother-in-law, and like I said, Dimitri Young, which is, he's from California. He was in Cincinnati's organization when I was coming up through the ranks, and he was a great guy, always upbeat, always, reaching out. If you needed anything, he was always there. And just his persona and how he carried himself, he was always a happy-go-lucky guy. And then my brother-in-law, Shad Scarborough, he's actually the defensive back coach at Bixby. At the time, he was at Sapulpa, and he said, "Why are you not coaching?" And I'm like, I had coached summer baseball. I just never thought about coaching like high school baseball and teaching. And I thought, what better way than to give back to my community than to coach and teach, right? Because I can teach you guys, I can teach the youth of this area how to be a model citizen, a good, outstanding young man, be a pillar of your community, and then also to be better than I ever was.
Also, like to use the things that help you to get to where you were and help us. Like that. Absolutely.
And that's the biggest thing, is just because I've made mistakes in my life. I think we all do. And I think that's how you get better, is when you fail often, but then the failures that you have can increase your successes if you allow yourself to learn from those mistakes.
Mm-hmm. What challenges or opportunities did you encounter during your transformation from player to coach at Western Heights?
The biggest thing that I struggle with is how I approach the game. Mm-hmm. And I have to understand is not everybody's like me. Mm-hmm. And that's what I struggle with the most. Mm-hmm. I struggle with how I approach the game. And because my approach was, I was locked in, like I gave it every penny that I had. I would empty my tank every day. Even on my worst days, I also share with my players is that a bad day on the field is better than any day in an office sitting at a desk. Mm-hmm. So you're 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. That's better than any day sitting at a desk behind a computer. Mm-hmm. So that was the hardest thing for me to do, or that's one of the hardest things for me to do, is to try to teach and to show the players that being on the baseball field is a blessing in itself, and then being successful on the field is double the blessings.
Mm-hmm. I understand the part when you were like, not everybody's like you, not everybody gives it all. Because my dad is the same way. Because my dad, when he was little, he didn't have parents, and he came here walking by himself when he was, I think, 13 years old. And he tells me and my sister sometimes, like, oh, like at your age I was already doing this and that. But like since we are in a better position that God lets us to be in, I feel like that's kind of why we're not like how He expects us to be, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's why I kind of understand where you're coming from.
And if I can share something with you, I always look at it as like this: Are you hungry, or are you hungry, or you just want something to eat? You see what I'm saying? So there's two different things. If you're hungry, you're going to find a way to eat. You're going to go into the kitchen. You're going to cook food for yourself. Or if you need to go to the store, you're going to go to the store. You'll go buy what you need in order to cook some food. If you just want something to eat and you expect somebody to give it to you or to bring it to you, then that means that you don't want it. So there's two different types of people, and so there's a fence that separates those two.
Yeah. So going back to everything and looking back at your past life, how all experiences that you went through, what would you go and do back again? Like, what would you fix, or what moment would you replay, and like go through?
The one thing that I think that I would do is absorb what was going on at the time more. I think it was going so fast, it's hard to absorb the feeling of success and the opportunities that was presented at the moment. I don't think that I would ever change anything, because everything that's happened to me in the past makes me the person I am today. And then it can also continue to allow me to be the appropriate leader for young men in the future. So I don't think that I would change anything. I would just want to absorb that more to be able to share it with those who are younger, and I can share those experiences in order for them to continue to be successful from my experience and me sharing it with them.
Do you have any advice for people who are going to see this?
Advice for people who is what?
Yeah, they're going to see this.
That are going to see this. It's one day at a time, and then never, ever, ever, if you have an opportunity, empty your tank, because your tank will be refilled every day. Never leave any stone unturned. Empty your tank every single day, because when you're emptying your tank, and I mean, when you're absorbing the information and then you're processing it, never, ever take it for granted, because that day might not ever come again. That opportunity might not ever come again. So if you empty your tank, if you give max effort every play, if you give max effort every opportunity, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's at work, whether it's on a football, baseball, in a gym, if you max effort it and give it all that you have, you will never, ever regret anything that's behind you. You'll always be looking forward.
Oh, Coach, thank you so much for helping us here, and thank you for the advice you gave the people on
the people and us too, and kind of getting to know you, and the viewers getting to know the experiences you went through to get to where you are now. I feel like people would take your advice and then give more, like how you say, give more every day. Like, don't leave anything, like, all the advice you told them. I feel like people would like see that and then be like, oh, like, I know what it needs to.
Absolutely. And I know that Pedro, I know that he remembers some of the stuff that I used to say, and I continue to preach it, because tomorrow's not promised to any of us.
Yeah.
And if we live life to its fullest every single day, and then God grants us another day, then guess what? We get to do it all over again. We get an opportunity to be better than we were yesterday. And that's, I always tell the boys, the players, like, my day in the sun is over. It's your turn. Right. I can preach all day long about my past and how well that I played and how well that I did and the struggles that I went through. But my time is pushing you guys to be great when the sun is over above you. So in this case, all these young men right now that are playing ball or doing, even doing what you guys are doing, right? Your opportunity is all in front of you. Right. And I'm going to use a term from Marlon Wayans, and he said, I'm 46, right? I probably have more days behind me than I do in front of me. So in essence, don't waste any days. It's easy for us to waste days when you're a teenager, but whenever you're grown, the less days that you waste, the more productive you can be, the more success you can bring to you and your family.
Yeah.
Because as a teenager, you look at it as life like, oh, like, I'll do it tomorrow, or, oh, I should do it some other day when the opportunity presents itself when you get older. I feel like since you learn from the experiences from your past, and you try not to commit the same mistakes that you already did.
That's it. That's 100% correct. Well, I appreciate you guys.
No, thank you to you, Coach.
Well, thank you, Coach, for today's podcast and the experience you gave us to be able to do this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Bueno, para terminar con la entrevista, aquí dejaremos en nuestras redes sociales y dejen en los comentarios a quién deberíamos invitar o con quién deberíamos hablar en nuestro próximo video. Sin nada más que decir, desde el estudio Western High School, con todo y salsita, podcast se despide sobre plebada.
Thank you, Coach.
Oh, you guys are welcome.
We'll see you on Monday then.
Yeah.